Happy Saturday. I am here with Dr. James Choo again. We do not have a special guest like Dr. Stephen Smith, but I think Holly is going to jump in on this one. So we got a mic at the table for her, so Chewy and I could drill her on her adversity, mental, physical toughness, that type of jazz that we're going to talk about.
Is this a first ever for Holly?
This is a first ever.
First ever on the mic.
Oh. She's been in all of our podcasts in the background, along with Ben, but now this is the first time we're going to hear
Coming
her
out
voice.
of the background.
and the show today, thanks, Ben, for being here.
Good morning, Ben.
I'm going to leave it at that because I wanted to be...
He was here before I was.
Hey!
Holy.
Oh, no, he was here at 9:30. He was like, I'm on it. Doggone
Nice.
it. Yeah.
Nice.
We wanted to talk about easing back into some sort of the COVID-19 lifestyle.
Yeah, getting back
today.
into normality.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we've had normality gone, and now that they're opening up the gyms and they're opening up the businesses and everyone is slowly getting back at it. It's you and I have been making some observations during the virus, and right now as people are transitioning back into life, I'd be interested in hearing some of your observations, and it's a good time to figure out how we get people back on the horse.
Well, I went out to eat last night for the first time, which I don't like doing.
Mm-hmm. Just in general?
Much. I really enjoy the routine I have at night now of cooking clean, sitting in the kitchen, having a glass of vino or two, Ben. And I don't trust the food anymore out, with the gluten and issues I have. So it's like...
Charlie's got some major gluten issues.
Oh, my gosh. So...
real debilitating gluten issues.
And restaurants and franchises, everything's packaged, so you can't even trust the spices lot that have gluten in it. So it's like, is it even worth it? Especially when they're still practicing social distancing. So it was kind of wild for me to look at the tables that were roped off.
Oh,
no salt and pepper shakers, no menus, nothing. They were blank, and everybody, it's
it kind of kills.
That was good for me.
Kind of kills the atmosphere a little bit, right?
I'm not doing that anymore. Somebody else can go eat, but it's not going to be me.
Well, it's strange. It's super strange.
I mean, more cars are on the road and all that jazz. Mm-hmm. But again, this morning I came in early and I didn't see many. So, this is exposed a lot, and I sent you that scripture this morning. That came up this morning about character.
Yeah,
and I think that's one of the things that we talked about that the last 8 weeks exposes.
Actually, you've been talking about that since day one of the virus mania. When you and I,
that came up today.
First observation about exposing character. So explain that to everyone. We literally the first thing that you observed was when they were starting to shut down things, and that you saw it in your own clients and the people around you that it was exposing character. So what does that mean?
For me, it doesn't. For me, character is exposed and defined. It's not as much built as everybody says. And what I mean by that is when adversity hits, and that's one of our topics today, it'll expose where your walk is, who you are, how strong you are, how mentally strong. That's what we're talking about, mental and physical toughness, which that's why we have Holly on this show, because we're going to debate and get into the difference. But it exposes people that are scared, where their walk is, what their values are the last 8 to 10 weeks. I've really seen people scared. I mean, a lot of clients. And you called it
terrified. Some people are totally
you called it the Patron purge. And I love that topic of the last 8-10 weeks of I didn't weed people out. They weeded themselves out.
Of the gym.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I've sent text messages to a lot of clients, and I don't care going on there talking about it. It's I've changed my personal ways and the way I'm going to run my business. And with at least 60% to 40% clientele down, how have I been the happiest I've ever been in the last 8 to 10 weeks?
That's a good question. So yeah, that was something that you've been talking about a lot during this time.
I've been my worst April ever. I had to re-engage with my accountant 3 or 4 times the last couple of days going, are you serious? Like, this is what you're showing me I brought in for April?
Yeah. And you think it's a blessing.
I ain't scared. Whether she was trying to scare, I'm not scared. And I think you're the only person that believes that.
Oh, I know that for sure. I know you're not. But part of that was though you had been prepared for something like this.
We both have.
Yeah, and then not that we knew that was coming or anything like that, but just in general, we had talked about in our social distancing podcast preparedness as a means of resilience, being ready for uncertainty. And also, but you're also talking more of a spiritual, when you talk about walk, right? You're talking about,
higher being, and you're talking about your spiritual preparedness in a lot of ways, right? Which is how you explain that. Well, yeah, I mean, you could see people that flesh driven, and I'm not saying that's, whatever their beliefs are, it's different if you don't have in my opinion, a solid foundation with some higher being. Mine is Jesus Christ. So I have to call on him to get me through the day. I mean, I couldn't imagine walking around without that.
A faith that things are going to be okay or there for a purpose in your life type thing.
Right. And I think what we talked about, and that's why we were on this mental, physical toughness podcast that I sent over to both you guys, is you agree, all those podcasts, you agree, disagree with certain things. Like we have friends that agree, disagree with the podcast shows that we have done recently. Sure. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So when you go to that, I did like what he was talking about.
Let's back up and tell them what it is. It's called Chasing Excellence, right?
Yeah, Chasing Excellence.
And then the particular podcast was about mental toughness versus physical toughness.
Right.
I forget which number it was, but it's in there. So that's what Charlie, Holly, and I listened to in preparation.
And some athletes in here and some clients I sent it to, and they're like, wow, that really helped, is if you anticipate wrong happenings that are coming your way, you're okay with it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we'll use Ben, for instance. Okay. He overslept, phone didn't go off, whatever. We're sitting here like this yesterday.
Called out Ben.
And it didn't happen.
Yeah.
I didn't get mad. I was like, you anticipate those type of things happening.
He's basically saying that he knew that you were not going to show up. My question is, why didn't he tell me that?
Yeah. And I ate a breakfast bowl for nothing, Ben. The Chick-fil-A breakfast bowl. We had 8,000 biscuits. We had it loaded. So, those adversities, again, that talks on the podcast, overcoming adversities that are going to come your way. That's what I liked about what he was talking about, is things are going... There's going to be more rough than smooth in life. Yeah. And if you don't think that way, you're not prepared for it. That's what he was getting at.
Yeah,
this is where the COVID-19 is I'm prepared for things like this. And if I'm not 100% prepared, I'm going to trust the process of how I studied and how I walk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought one of the interesting points of that Chasing Excellence was when he was talking about Michael Phelps. And Michael Phelps, he said, well, the top 15, there's not much difference in the way that they physically train. I guess that was part of what his point was. But he said that with Michael Phelps as coach, they think about putting the videotape in their mind. So I guess they imagine what would happen if he screwed up during the race, if he slipped off the blocks, if he missed something in his turn, that he missed a certain type of stroke, or and in their mind they've got a videotape to say, okay, once you've missed, you're screwed up someplace in the race, you've got a bank of videotapes in your mind that says, okay, I'm ready for this. I'm prepared for this, because they've thought about it and they can play it in their mind that they will inevitably screw up, but they've got a plan for it. So that plan is logged in a videotape. And so if you screw up, you just play the videotape during the race, and you're ready to go. Right. So they also talked about weaponizing the mind. So it's not like you're playing defense all the time. You've weaponized your mind in order to chase these eventualities, and that things aren't always going to go your way, and you're going to screw up. But and so much of that podcast seemed to me that it was performance based, right? So these are, I think, CrossFit.
Yeah, it's a CrossFit deal.
CrossFit
Right.
coaches or whatever.
Right.
And so you and I kind of are talking about something beyond just the performance of a game or an event or some type of sports thing, because I think that's where some of this information kind of stops. It stops at, hey, you're preparing for the CrossFit Games, you're preparing for your lacrosse meet or whatever, and you got to be mentally or physically tough, and there's a difference between the two and all that. But I think what you're talking about is being mentally tough for beyond just a sport, but for life in particular, and that's why you felt very ready for things like COVID and all that kind of stuff, even though it's not like you were able to anticipate that there was going to be COVID, but when those things happen, you're ready to roll.
And you always use the word preparedness,
Mm-hmm.
and I like that word that you've always used. And we could go back to further than that. I could only control what I can control. I can't control outside, and that's what Dr. Smith, turned me on to, is look at the news. Like, if you sit there and just watch the news, you're going to think something much more harsh than what really is in your world.
Yeah.
So it's your world. So you turn off the news. I listened to the podcast again this morning.
Mm-hmm.
If you turned off the news and turned off TV and just went about your day, if your day is filled, what really has changed?
Right. Nothing. Yeah. Well, except for the fact that your state or city or whoever is making you stay in your home or preventing you from working or something like that. But beyond that, which is a lot for some people,
Sure.
Beyond that, I mean, in reality, nothing has really changed except for what the news is telling you, and maybe even shifting in some of the kind of political decisions. But other than that, you're right. There's nothing that's really changed.
So it's the mental well-being or the mental toughness that I think would get you through. Mm-hmm. Whether it's your choices.
Because right now you can't even count on your job being there.
No.
Right? So it's like, put that in your pocket the next time you're walking out. You cannot count on the next day of having your job, because you can get in a car accident or something like this can happen. And so you better be ready for something like that, right? And be able to take that on the chin.
Well, if you're ready or you're not ready, it'll expose you. And that's what I think adversity does. I think, how you handle adversity defines your character. I don't think it develops your character. How you handle adversity defines your character. It doesn't develop your character.
Holly?
Here we go. Physical, mental toughness.
Holly, what are you sitting over there?
And we have her on because I think she's one of the most physically tough people I know. Mm-hmm. Physically. So we've had debates over mental to physical toughness, how they're congruent, how they're not congruent. Mm-hmm. And I think they're completely different.
The podcast would make the argument that they're not the same. Physical toughness and mental toughness are not the same thing according to Chasing Excellence.
And I agree with that, Kat, 100%. And I don't know them from all, but go ahead, Holly.
I don't know if they're the same, but I think that they do.
Yeah. Nice voice.
Thank you. I think they depend on each other. I think you can't be physically tough without being somewhat mentally tough.
Well, define your mental tough. Not yours, but like what mental tough to you.
Just doing something that you don't think you're strong enough to do. Sticking it out. Like, there's a mentality to a physical toughness.
So,
in my opinion.
okay, are you born with that, or is that developed?
I think it can be developed.
Okay.
You don't.
No, I think you're a product of your environment for sure. I think it's trading places. By the way, that's what I'm watching tonight.
Great,
That's
we have our
great.
movie.
It's a great movie
It's a
because
great movie.
Now
takes,
if we can make it through
it
it.
takes Eddie Murphy out of being a bum, Dan Aykroyd out from being the financial securities guy that he is, and they switch places, and they're like, everybody's a product of their environment. You could be made, and they're like, no, you're born. But
That's a great movie.
it's a great movie.
It is,
hilarious.
yeah.
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I know physical tough. That's what he was talking about, is running one more sprint. I'm not a physically tough guy. I'll go ahead and
I agree.
Oh, you sound like me with Dr. Smith. I agree. We
Thank
didn't
you,
dre-
Holly. Thank
we
you.
didn't dress up today. Lang.
Just kidding.
But the physical tough, I think, and the reason we had Ollie on today is for those things, and it still circles all the way back around to COVID-19 and the coronavirus. Of it exposes people that are mentally or physically tough, or neither, and just plain out scared, and they're scared they can't even explain because it's in such a heightened panic that I've witnessed in here in the wood gym.
Yeah. Just here's a question. Before COVID, because you're able to, what Charlie does really well is he tries to figure out people's, I think you try to figure out people's character first before you even evaluate them physically, or maybe you kind of do it all at the same time. I don't know, but would you have been able to predict pre-COVID, during COVID, who would have come into the gym, who would not have? Were there any surprises?
No, 100. I mean, because I have few gifts in life, and Chad Pennington and people around me, my discernment, I think, is one of them. And
do you think you would have been able to spin like
it was spot on?
Okay,
it was spot on. It was spot on. Of I don't know. It's that's a slippery slope, because I could go through this and really break it down of why and how people react to what they're afraid to lose, and what that loss is to them is different, I think, to you and I.
So, all right.
Now that's
here's a question then that kind of brings it to this whole idea of whether mental toughness can be developed or not. Could you see in some of those people that were waffling and wavering in the wood gym that could become more, solid in their next phase of adversity, or could that be developed there if they wanted to, that type of thing?
Okay, just real quick, and I know Holly wants to jump in on something because I want to discuss this, but I think people are scared of losing two things:
Okay, go ahead.
their life and money.
I mean, that's everyone's to a degree. Not there's a lot of people. That's pretty common to be afraid of your own mortality, and your.
Is it?
I think it's common.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's very common. I mean, I think that's a very common concern. I mean,
Is this place common?
no. Insurance. That's why you have insurance. That's why you have. There's a lot of reasons. I don't.
Okay, but if you took those two reasons out, you just lived a day. An abundant day, as we're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
An abundant day, because we're not given this day tomorrow. So,
Right.
Ben, make sure you live each day. Set those alarm clocks.
Yeah.
Watch the sunrise. Watch the sunset. I think this has brought even the people that walk with scared of life and money, I think it's brought them around. We talked about that as like, will they take the same day the same way again?
Yeah.
Will they take life the same way? Will they find Jesus or a higher being, whatever that is, or does it not? Or are they going back to, on my notes, the victim, the woe is me mentality?
Yeah.
So
What is your take on that? Do you think there's some people that will be like, all right, they'll take it in a way that is more positive in that respect, where they may say, well, let me get my life together, rethink life a little bit, and think about this purpose of life, and all this stuff, and reframe things in my mind. Do you think there'll be people like that, or do you think they're
No,
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 not at all?
Because again, this doesn't. It goes back to my point. Which, way to go, Chaz! You're staying consistent. This reveals character. It's not going to go, oh, now I'm digging in. Now I'm going to be a changed person at 50 years old, at 60 years old, at 70 years old. No, they're wanting everything else to change, and they stay the same, and then they want to go back to their day.
For you think for all, or for?
I think everyone. Yeah, I do. I mean, because
you're talking about everyone in the wood gym, but
I think everyone in the wood gym goes, cool, wood gym's open, it's ready to rock. I'm going to come back and start doing the same
plug
thing.
in just like before.
But if I was like, why did I leave for 8 weeks? I would have to self-reflect and look in the mirror, which nobody wants to do anymore, is look in the mirror and go, why was I so scared?
Well, going back to what Dr. Smith said, because of the fear, the propaganda that was put out there.
Exactly.
Everybody's terrified. And terrified of what? Flu season.
You got to wear a mask.
No, you don't. Unless you get your hair done.
Or nails. Or eyelashes.
Nope, I don't wear them for nails.
Okay. So that, to me, I think is mentally tough, which I think Holly has a mental tough aspect to her on some things, and then you break down of like, I think going through adversity is different than Holly going, it's just a flu, I'm not wearing a mask, the social distance is ridiculous. I think that's one level of a mental toughness or one category, but I don't think it's everything. Because when you go through adversity, it's like, I've been here before. I saw this coming. I'm going to handle it. That's, I think, you almost borrow trouble as your friend. Where people go, hey, let's not borrow that trouble yet. You almost go, let me hear it. Let me see it. Let me evaluate it. So when it does come, because adversity gets everybody in this room.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody in this room will have serious adversity.
Yeah.
So how do you go through it?
Yeah.
Do you hold up? Do you shut down?
You fight.
You fight.
Yeah. I mean,
that's is that different than, it's going to sound like the Chewy show, but I think Chewy is a combination of both. I think you have a physical, mental toughness that is different than a lot of people that walk through this gym. But that's point proven from all the pictures on the wall. Is you remember way before we started doing a podcast show years ago, I was like, Chewy, I don't think I have that. I wouldn't say level, maybe category of mental toughness that you have. I can't sit in a tent. First of all, I wouldn't know how to pitch one. I never camped a day in my life. I'm a city boy. I wouldn't know how to pitch a tent. I sure as hell wouldn't know how to wait on a plane to come pick me up, and I'm sitting reading a book for a week, waiting for something. That is a mental toughness that I don't have.
Well, but I think there's also other categories of mental toughness that I don't have. I mean, there's a patience that I've seen in my wife and my mother, who are tough in these different ways that I could never be. I've never say my mom's like, this physically tough person, but she's life tough, like really, like more so than I could ever be. I mean, we're talking about, you leave your home, as in your early 20s, you fly over to the United States of America, this is not your home. You're just on faith that you're just going to, meet your fiancés over here, and you don't have any money. And it's not like you have Skype in the late 1960s. You might get a letter every month or two, or, from your family. You don't see them for 10 years. you come here and you start at the bottom when you were highly educated over in your home country, and you start with nothing, and then you've got no support. No, I mean nothing. Like I mean that's a different tough. Now, would my mom climb a mountain or anything? No, but could she, when it matters most in life? That type of stuff. And like, I see what my wife does with the kids and all that kind of stuff is just own different type of tough. Like those are, and it's the patience. I don't have any of that. That
so
patience.
You think she was born with that? Or didn't have a choice?
I don't, I mean.
And had to develop.
Well,
this is my only option.
I think there's that because, they came from a war-torn country.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you come from something like that and you don't have all the things that we have, that gives you a different perspective altogether when you come up with so much less. I mean, literally, when Korea was finished with the war, they were as poor as some of the poorest countries in the worst parts of Africa right now. I mean, they're really, really poor. So when you have that, and then you literally are born with not much. Even though they had family members that were well off in their standards, but I mean, the entire country is poor. Like you come to a place like America and, it seems like you have everything over here, especially back then. You're certainly a product of your environment, but that means the way that they were raised as well and how close their families were and, all that kind of stuff. But then I think also over time too, just living that life and trying to put one foot in front of the other, trying to figure out things on their own. They have no choice in the matter. So you can't succumb to your own pities by any means. Like you have to keep on going. I mean, my dad, same way. I was never put in those positions. I don't think I'd ever want to be put in those positions, but that's a different type of tough than just, I think that's a hell of a lot harder than climbing a mountain in my mind. So, I think that's different, that's a different type of tough because of their circumstance, where they came from, and also who they are, all that type of stuff. I mean, so I always felt like a spoiled brat in comparison to what they had and how easy my life was in comparison to what they had and what they had to do to get us to where we needed to be. And that's not something I don't have that patience, that type of life toughness that they had. I just don't. It's different. You know what I mean? Like, so there's different there's different weaknesses. I have some weaknesses there that they just are so rock solid on. You know what I mean?
Well, we talk about that, and you hit on that. Have no choice.
Yeah,
I say that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I try to implement it to Holly, and Holly, being a hell of a softball player, growing up her whole childhood,
Mm-hmm.
Into high school, into college, played into her 20s. I think we hit on that where she had no choice. She had to be a good ball player.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure I'm following, but.
Well, I mean,
I didn't have a lot of other options to get out of a small town.
This is, it's a mental toughness and a physical toughness that we go back. Your dad was going to make you a softball player. So you wanted to please your dad, but then also that he loved the game. There wasn't a choice to go, hey, Dad, I don't want to play.
Correct.
Like, I think today in our society in 2020, you could go, hey, I don't want to play.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So she had no choice. Like, I had no choice. If I was going to live with my father in the summers in New Jersey, I was going to work.
There was no choice.
At 13 years of age.
Yeah.
There's not a choice.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
So
and that's abundance of choices can make you a little weak, I think, in a lot of ways,
That's a
right?
good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what you're trying to say?
And that's what I'm trying to say
Yeah.
is Holly was going to play hell or high water. She had no choice.
Right.
She was going to play softball. And not that her dad's the only dad out there that pushes her kid to play that.
Yeah.
But that was she didn't have a choice.
Mm.
She was going to play softball, right or wrong.
Right. Yes.
So that makes her mentally tough or physical tough.
I think a little of both. Again, I see.
I think
him
it's
being
physical
congruent.
tough. I think it's physical tough because you had no choice.
So what
don't know.
then define mental tough? Because you decide not to choose certain things, and then you go in a particular direction. How do you define that?
Well, are we talking life or are we talking Michael Phelps and Holly softball?
Well, just talk about both. So talk about the Michael Phelps and Holly then.
Let's talk about
Mental
Michael Phelps.
first.
I'm going to go with Michael Phelps.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I know she don't want to talk about the softball, but she became good. I wouldn't say she had no choice, but if you met her father and talked to her father, she was playing softball. He could say what he wants, but she was playing softball.
Mm-hmm.
So is that a mental toughness choice, or I'm going to do this to please my dad, or I'm going to get out of bed at 6 a.m. and hit the cage and do stuff? That's my choice. Or he's going to be on me anyway.
That's like-
I see it and hear a lot with dads and kids too.
Uh-huh.
You see what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like, it's not her choice.
Well, it's like a Pennington.
That was his choice.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's his desire and his drive, right?
To show up at 5:30 in the morning in high school and set the standard
Yeah.
in the early 90s for my business model is if you want it, you'll show up here.
He-
And if you don't want it, you'll miss it.
Right.
You'll miss the morning workouts. It's
You choose what you learn from the adversity, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Ben, Grasshopper. Yes, Ben. Let's mic him up. Let's mic Benny up next. Yes. Yes. It's a choice. And what's important to you, you'll do. No matter what time it is of the day, you'll do.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like not talking on Ben setting the alarm and missing our podcast yesterday. No, not really. No. I'm saying like, okay, if Ben had an interview, Ben, what's your ideal dream job in 5 years? If you could do anything, what would you want to do?
I would work with Hans Zimmer and write movie scores.
I love this guy. See, he's unique. Okay. Hans Zimmer writing movies. Okay.
Writing musicals, music,
Or-
right?
Yeah.
Okay. He has a lunch date with him at 11 at Aubrey's tomorrow.
He won't miss it.
He won't miss it. He'll set 2 alarms for that because that's the most important thing. And I'm not jamming you on the.
I'm not your Hans Zimmer, Ben.
Ben, damn it, Ben.
Damn
but,
you.
But that was a case that I had about 2 or 3 years ago. I was meeting 2 or 3 people at Aubrey's, and 2 out of the 3 showed up. So when I went to my life coach, Jim Williams, and told him what was going on, and he was like, it just wasn't that important to him.
Mm-hmm.
So the choice of the importance now does. I'm going to go back to Holly. Hello,
Great.
Holly.
Great.
Is did you love the game or were you taught to love the game?
Good question.
I think I
Holly?
was.
Did you choose it on your own going, hey, Dad, I want to play water polo. No shot in hell. Here's a stick and here's a ball.
I
and
was
glove.
taught to love the game.
There you go.
Over time. Okay, so then go back to mental tough. So that was physical tough. I mean, you kind of touched on a little bit of both, but what's the mental life mental toughness?
I think you do things that are hard, and a lot more things are going to be hard than easy, but you go through it and you win at the end of the day. I think that's what's mental toughness is doing a lot of things that you don't want to do.
And no matter what, you get up and you do it.
And you get up and you do it.
Yeah.
And you go through the day. And that's how you build your character. You can't build character off a win or a loss.
Is it every day these decisions, small decisions that
Yes.
you're like, you've got the path. One is the least resistance path, and the other one is the hard right.
And face it.
And face it and do it.
And you being in the business of what you're in,
Mm-hmm.
what does everybody do?
Yeah. I mean,
They don't want to face it, so they do what?
yeah, you medicate and you do.
I think that's a sign of mental weakness.
Well, there are some cases where, for some of our patients, where sometimes medicine is okay,
Yes, of course.
But for it's. But you're certainly right. It's a heck of a lot easier to go down the path of least resistance.
So the choice. So that's again. I mean, those are everything is a switch on. You could change your day and your ways like that. Like, and what I mean by like that, it could actually switch like that. If Ben thought today, I'm going to have Charlie take me through a training program. I'm going to work out today. Out of nowhere, Ben just became different, and he turned the switch on like that.
Decision. Boom. Yeah.
Boom.
With a decision.
And it could change his whole day and his whole life, and all of a sudden he became a healthy lifestyle man every day. From just switching like that.
You're a person who believes in driving your own destiny car in a lot of ways. Like you make those choices yourself. I mean, I'm that way too. I mean, but that you certainly believe that those choices in your head, it's almost binary decisions, yes or no. Like,
and
should
guess
I do
what?
Like,
they're not easy.
No,
because if Ben goes, okay, today I want Charlie to take me through a weight training program, it's going to be hard. It's going to be awkward. It's going to be uncomfortable. And he's going to be crippled for about 3 days. And not because I'm loading him on. It's just something he hasn't done.
Yeah.
Today I made the day of getting in early to the gym. Okay. At 6:30. It wasn't easy. It'd be easier to sleep in a little longer, have some more coffee time, and have a ride in with one of my clients, sit in the passenger seat, grab another cup of coffee, and get in here at 8 o'clock. But I had to make a switch of I need to change something in my Saturday morning routines.
So, and then you
I had to get up earlier and not just get in earlier and like read or hang out. I had to start twisting steel and getting in shape. So 2 things, but that's a choice.
And that over a period of time, that's how you develop the character and mental toughness and that type of thing.
I felt much better for everybody. I was on a high all morning long.
Yeah.
Just from like changing something up like that. Just one little change. And that's what we were talking about. So physical toughness. Are you physically tough, Holly?
Yes.
And what's your definition of physical toughness?
I don't know that. What, just getting it done. Just not accepting.
Well, I think pain tolerance is one. I mean, you being a pain doctor. I don't have a high pain tolerance.
No, you do not.
No, you do not. I know. Even though
we're going to agree with that.
I've known him long enough. But I will say this though, you push super hard. So I guess I've never. I dare say that there are a few people that push yourself as hard as you can to the degree that you do in the gym. I don't see anyone doing that. Like I just know that because I see the depth of your movements when you squat and, when you're on the road ride on the crappy bike and you're not quitting. There's no quit.
But I'm getting something back for that.
But that's because you think that's a mental push more so because than the actual physical.
Okay, I'll describe this, Ben, and tell me if I'm wrong, you guys. The pain tolerance thing to me, and I don't know Ben, but I know Holly and Chewy very well. I mean, even if Freddie Smith, who's been on the show and is a world-class cyclist.
Physically, it's super tough.
The pain tolerance is when you experience pain or have an injury or have a surgery and you don't talk about it. Me? you're going to hear it every hour on the hour. I'll go through it, but you're going to hear it all the time.
Yes,
right or wrong?
Right.
Chewy, right or wrong?
Yes.
100.
And Chewy's had to shoot me up in my neck. And, that night I talked to him 8 billion times. I couldn't lift my shoulder. It was numb. I'm losing my shoulder. My neck's falling off. What did you do to me? You don't know what you're doing.
I
Instead of
swear,
just,
it was more phone calls in that short period of time than I'd ever had
Right.
in my
100.
entire life.
So I think that is one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
The Harrison Smiths of the world. I mean, I got to stretch his ankle every day he's in here. It's anchored in. It doesn't move. He played on it. I mean, the guy's pain, and you don't even know it. So physical and mental toughness.
Mm-hmm.
Ben, you listening in, do you feel like you got a proper definition of both?
Yeah.
I mean, and I think it still comes around to circling all the way back into easing in from COVID-19, getting back to normalcy, understanding that it could come back around. So that's where you embrace adversity and go, something worse could happen. Am I going to be ready for it? Not like we're done, we're clear, now life, the next 30 years of my life are going to be awesome.
Do you think a lot of people will just go through this? I think we talked a little bit about this, that there is no plan for another event, that they're just hoping to plug back into the matrix and then just go. Like, I can't wait for this nightmare to end. There's nothing. You just get back to the wood gym, get back to life, and then go. That's because that's my crutch. It's just hoping that this society will be back to normal, and
people are washing their hands less in here and doing a lot of that stuff. I still spray down the equipment at night and do all that type of jazz, but I was doing that before. Mm-hmm. So that's not a big deal. What I have heard lately, waiting on the vaccine.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the vaccine to come out.
And that's exactly what you and I were talking about. You can't wait. You can't depend on that. What you got to depend on is yourself, your fitness, what Dr. Smith would have said, vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin C, getting strong, getting healthy, all those things.
It helps.
That's why I always thought the narrative was false about this vaccine, was like, just work on yourself.
Well, Sigmund and Roy, which one? Sigmund died? Did you see that yesterday?
Is the one that got
Roy.
eaten by the tiger or not eaten
Back
by
in 2001.
Yes.
Roy. Oh, he died of COVID-19. How old was he?
75.
75.
How was his health? We don't know.
Yeah.
We just know it was COVID-19.
Right.
All right. Do you think you were going to say something? I do like you on the mic. You're like
I'm not
Ed
crazy
McMahon.
about the mic, I'll tell you. But no, but we ate dinner out last night.
Mm-hmm.
I think people will get back to some sense of rationalism, I guess, if you will, because you've got every other table marked off, but then you're 2 feet away from somebody at a table that's within. So the booth is marked off, but you're right next to them. So it's common sense. It's just common sense. And none of the things they've told us or keep telling us
Are sensible.
make any sense.
Well,
Yes,
it goes
sensible.
back to Fauci is nothing is making any sense, and we all knew. And Dr. Smith was right on a lot of stuff that he was
Yes.
sending Chewy to you and I for weeks. It's all coming to fruition. But the other thing hit on this. Okay, Holly, take this one away. Take it away. We'll wrap it up with this one. Holly's got to do a softball lesson. Chewy's probably got to go climb a mountain. Ben's got to go back to sleep. All right, so
Dreaming about Hans Zimmer.
yes, I can't wait. I'm going to set 6 alarms for tomorrow. Hopefully he'll call. Listen to this one, Ben. This was a great one. We were eating last night, and what did somebody order to go?
They ordered a margarita.
And explain the process of what that looks like before.
As I said to Charlie.
after.
Yeah. As I said to Charlie, okay, how are they going to stop that now? Because before, if you ever tried to take a drink out of a restaurant, my gosh, it was like against the law, all this. So they eased that regulation to appease people. But then now they're giving it because they've eased that regulation. So how are they going to go back?
Oh, and then say
And so you can't do
get
that.
takeout drinks anymore and all that.
It's like
mean, it's just
everything's
like-
making up as we go.
Oh,
with
yeah.
this thing, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the rules
The mask
are
help. The mask doesn't help.
Yeah.
Social distance helps.
So
It
on
doesn't
July
help.
1st or June 1st, you
Alcohol-
can no longer take it to go.
alcohol delivery
Or
is
like-
bad. Now it's good.
It's not
now
even
it's
delivery.
bad. Yeah.
It's I
To
need
go.
the margarita to go, like a glass of tea to go.
Yeah.
Well, Chewy and I talked about that. Remember with Costco last week? Out of
Yeah.
nowhere, they're like, everybody has to wear masks. And Dr. James Choo was like, why do they set that standard now when the peak is gone?
When we've gone how many times during
Yeah.
this
During the
this
whole thing.
pandemic, and nobody.
Everybody has gone to the same grocery stores this entire time.
Yes.
With masks, without masks, but then now past the
But
surge
you're touching
and
all.
this stuff.
I watch
Everybody's-
people touch all the meat and then put it down.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and that's what Dr. Smith was saying. I know he's getting roasted 10,000 times
Hey,
over
people
again.
people are starting to listen though.
I think they are too.
They're
Yeah.
starting to understand. I mean,
Followers and thinkers. That's all he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't saying, I'm throwing this down your throat. He's like, followers and thinkers, and if it doesn't make sense, question it and do some research. That's all he was saying.
Yeah.
But you're right. There are people coming around going, he made a good point.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these doubters that were out there at the very, very beginning look like they're going against the grain like crazy people. So a lot of the things that they were saying are revealing themselves as to be true and to be questioned.
You got everybody saying, like, even people that started back last week in here, like, we just got to get back into work and this and that. And I'm like, never stop. Like, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for telling me that the last 18 weeks. So, okay, summary on the margaritas. How they gonna,
I don't know how it'll end. It'll be interesting.
I think they'll probably try to end it.
You think
Yeah,
so?
absolutely.
I mean, I think
It's a
they'll try
law.
to. Yeah. So I don't.
But when does that get enforced?
Yeah. And yeah. When do they say this is over?
Yeah.
Good question. I don't know. I mean,
I just think it's just not common sense type
No.
stuff. They just did it to appease.
alcohol sales were exploded during this time.
Oh, gosh.
Exploded.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
You can
Amazing. I mean, it's everybody I talked to was like curbside. I picked up this today, that today, this today.
Yeah.
Yep. 100. All right. I know we got to wrap this up on a Saturday afternoon. I think we accomplished mental toughness, physical toughness, easing into. Well, I think the people in this office do not ease into it. We just stayed with
Steady.
Yeah.
Rock steady.
rock steady,
Yeah.
and be looking for another Dr. Smith coming up soon. We got
Oh,
to
yeah.
get our blazers.
That's
We
right.
got to dress the part.
Absolutely. I'll be in one. I'll be in a
I'm
blazer.
gonna do one too. I might shave,
How about-
cut my hair.
I might have the hoodie on.
I
but,
might have
like,
my
I'll
Sunday
have the
suit
blazer
on.
on top.
All right, everybody. Thanks, Holly. Thanks for chiming in today.
Okay. You're welcome.
Thanks, Ben, for coming. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you
Way to
guys.
go. See
Thanks. See ya.